early to say if the stew is, you don't like it. You could kind of taste it, but you still got time to put more pepper or more seasoning in it. But I think they're going to be okay. But I'm sorry, man. Coming off the Super Bowl loss, and I believe you should have won it again, and you got contract gate going on with Brandon Ayuk, and, we've been down that road with Debo, no Greenlaw, who got hurt in front of the world in the Super Bowl. And, Evan, I'm not doing anything or making things up that nobody else has thought about, but the rat on the table is, hey, Kyle, you're a damn good coach and play caller, but when you going to close the deal, bud? Like, that's what this season is taking on for me. And then the bigger rat on the table, Loveman, brought to you by Atco, is how is Brock Purdy going to perform in a year that you're probably going to make him your franchise quarterback, but what if he regresses? Then how many M's are we taking off? Like, all that's coming into play. You got a first-year defensive coordinator because you jetson your other guy. I'm going to build for this. Well, you weren't. They ran you. It was kind of foul, but you're gone. They got a new coordinator without arguably one of their best players who got hurt in the bowl. I cannot wait. I don't know what to expect, E. Well, I really don't.
Their season is for sure the most promising of the three. I mean, trying to figure out if they can finally get over the hump. It feels like we've been stuck in that for, 5 years, basically?
Yeah. 11 wins ain't going to get it to me.
Well, they got 13 postseason wins, I think, since 2010.
Yikes.
They don't have a Super Bowl, though.
Man.
So that's what they're trying to figure out. And then the transition for the 49ers, to me, is between a team that's going to cement itself as a champion or the team that's going to be forgotten. Because the Niners have a long list of championships, and is this just going to be another dead period until whenever the next successful run comes, and we see if we can get it done then? Is Kyle Shanahan going to be known as someone that came close but didn't get it? Or is he going to be a guy that is revered because I think he's respected?
No doubt.
But among Bay Area fans, I don't know if he's revered. So the transition to me is between a team that is a champion and the team that just gets lost in NFL history.
Evan, I love that. And, I tell Steiny this. I think about it. Andy Reid is a god now. And I threw shade at him because what he didn't accomplish in Philly, had the opportunity, won Super Bowl, Evan, but a million NFC championship appearances to get back. But what have you, I still knew he was a good coach. But whatever I was feeling that day, I came in and was like, he's not that guy. He's not of Belichick quality. And I do wonder, Evan, how long this window's going to stay open for the Niners. And again, they control a lot of that. But I'm sitting here with my popcorn like, Evan, I watched the Super Bowl, and a majority of the game, I thought the Niners were the better team. And for whatever reason, me not blaming Kyle, you're the Captain Kirk, the William Shatner. You didn't get it done. And then I go back and say, Arsenio Hall, things that make you say, Eve. I say, your offense didn't look prolific against Green Bay, and it damn sure didn't look prolific against Detroit, and it did not look prolific in the most important game of all. I have questions as to why. Enter 2024, the draft, Ricky Pearsall, a wide receiver, not a DB, not an O-lineman, because a lot of people say that's why they lost that game against the Chiefs, the Super Bowl. But, Evan, I'm sitting there like, well, maybe I'm right. Maybe he says he needs more dynamic play at the wideout position and another guy to make it prolific when it counts most.
Well, unlike the Warriors, the Niners are actually in need of tweaks. I mean, there's no wholesale changes that I think you could argue the Niners need to make. I mean, you'd like to upgrade certain positions. You'd like to get players to play better in particular spots. But good, I mean, they were right there. They lost in overtime of the Super Bowl. Overtime. They got closer than they did in 2019.
They could have won it.
Because they got an extra period of football.
Yeah.
They could have won it. And that's, I wonder how much of a toll that takes on a team.
That's deep.
Now, 2020 was derailed due to injury, so it's a little bit different. But as we're seeing with a team, for example, like the Denver Nuggets, or even the Golden State Warriors a couple years ago, as we in football, unless you have the guy, unless you got a Patrick Mahomes, it is very, very difficult to get back to where you were. Exhibit A, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they were
good call.
I think that they were tired by the end of last season. I think that they were mentally exhausted, And I think they knew that they just didn't have it, and their season went in the polar opposite direction of where it started.
Wow.
I wonder if the Niners, because they're still bringing back most of their team, I think they're going to re-sign Ayuk and extend him this offseason. They're going to have their dudes. I mean, everyone is pretty much going to be back for that team outside of a couple characters that they let walk for monetary purposes. How do the Niners, I think this season to me is about how much mental fortitude the San Francisco 49ers have. Because if they don't have it, if they're not a mentally strong team, then we're going to see something that we did not expect, which is them fade and potentially not even be back to where we expect them to be, because in my opinion, Goo, it's NFC title game or bust.
Yeah, I love that, and I appreciate that, and I'm from that cloth, and I don't think that is too far-fetched. I don't think that's unfair, and, I keep calling this roster the happy hour roster because they're loaded. They are, and they should have a chip, Ev, and I'm going to sit here and say, if let's just say the mental fortitude that you talk about with Philly takes its toll, then, and I know I can hear Steiny's voice right now, Kyle's not going anywhere. I'm not advocating for him to go anywhere, but in the court of public opinion with the fans, that means something to me because I'm a fan. You're a fan, Evan, too. So it does mean something. And I'm reading the YouTube chat now in the text line. A lot of people blame Kyle. If you want to say, the Finkster muscle got tight here and there on decisions, what have you.
Shut up, Puckering.
But no doubt. But Evan, Kyle can ill afford to have his team go go south at the most important time. And Philadelphia, there's no way anybody could tell me, I wasn't on the scene, the Howard Eskins, that there wasn't anything going on with Brown and Hurts at the like that dying. Something was going on in the locker room. Bottom line, I don't think that's happening here. But, Evan, there is pressure. What if I said more pressure on Kyle's neck than ever to get to that game that you talk about? Because if we rewind, Tebow, and go to the Green Bay game, you were the number 1 seed at home on a Saturday rainy night, and you were this close to losing. And my thing would have been, what would we be talking about now, Evan? Now, had you won the Super Bowl, I'd be a fool to bring that up. But you didn't. Then Detroit came, and you were down 7. Talk to me, E.
They were. Who do you think more pressure is on? Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, or Kyle Shanahan, the general manager?
I think Kyle Shanahan, the head coach.
Well, the only reason I asked that is because there was a piece of sound from Chris Sims earlier today.
Oh,
if
his
we can
buddy.
get that dialed up, Sam, appreciate you. And he was discussing the fact that Kyle Shanahan is the czar. And it's something we kind of already knew. Let me know when we got it. We do. Here's what Chris Sims had to say about Kyle Shanahan.
This is much respect for John Lynch, right? Big part of the organization. Now, this is the thing where I've told people this sometimes, and I still think they're shocked about this, or they don't understand this, right? Kyle Shanahan's picking the players. Kyle Shanahan is the GM of the 49ers. He has absolute total power, right? So it's not the way to take away anything from, a John Lynch or just like a Brett Veach with Kansas City. Andy Reid gets final power call, right? There's a few of those in the NFL, right? So it ain't Peters or Lynch. It's Shanahan, then it's Lynch, and then it was Peters when he was there.
Kyle Shanahan's the San Francisco 49ers. That's what I hear.
No doubt.
He's calling the shots on the field. He's calling the shots off the field. And he's calling the shots everywhere in between. And I don't know if that's pressure you necessarily want on one man. But, you're right. It just mounts each and every year that you get close to the mountaintop, but you don't see the promised land.
And you know what, Evan? And the more I hear, and that was Sims, and I appreciate that sound, the more I hear Kyle talk, I kind of want to give him a bro hug or a dap. Like, he's doing it. It's like pig Latin. He's accepting the pressure. Like, he's okay knowing that people are saying his team has had great success, and he's not running from that. And that's why the quote a couple weeks back about we don't want to take 2 steps back now for 3 years forward later. Like, guys like me, Evan, and all I can bring to the table is my opinion. I can appreciate that because I feel like what Morris Day, what time it is. And the great John Taylor, the last time I bring up, I was at the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame induction Monday with Bonte, and the great John Taylor said this to us, and I'm going to say it to you because I've said it to Steiny, and I've never fronted and came in here like I'm Ron Jaworski or I know more ball than anybody else. But damn it, Evan, I know that George Kittle is better than the production or the way he's being utilized. And he basically was a zero throughout the playoffs. And for me to come in here and share with Steiny, my question is, I don't have the play call. I'm just wondering why. And you know what I've been told, Evan? Oh, he's in there to help the O-line. Well, if the O-line is that much of a problem and it's taking away my tight end and his ability physically to be a mismatch, and on a good day we see it, that's a problem. But you know what I did? I just shut up because Steiny was like, "Ooh, that's how they decide to do it." The great John Taylor said, volunteered, they need to get 85 involved more in the offense. And I do wonder with this Pearsall addition, does Kyle know maybe, you know what? He's not an offensive lineman. We need to utilize just as a threat, 85 downfield. I wonder, because you've been this close. This close, Evan, if we see that. And I'm excited for that.
I mean, I don't think Kittle was the problem in the Super Bowl or the playoffs, but you're right. He wasn't featured too often on offense. And it might sound unfair, for a second-year player to kind of put it at his doorstep, but I think if you're looking at Kyle Shanahan, you also have to look at his quarterback. I mean, you have to look at the guy that's the orchestrator of Kyle Shanahan's system, or is playing the notes that Kyle Shanahan is giving him. And he's a young guy, and he's going to get better, hopefully. And he's going to be back in the same position that he was last year, hopefully, with a chance to win it all. But Brock Purdy's got to be better next season than he was this season. I don't mean statistically. Yeah. I mean, 49ers fans watched the games. He was damn good throughout the majority of the regular season. Had a couple bumps here and there. That's going to happen. In money time, you have to be better. I mean, that's what every player or every team demands of their quarterback nowadays. Josh Allen has not been good enough for the Buffalo Bills to get over the top.
Dak Prescott.
Last year, Dak Prescott won. Lamar Jackson was not good enough in the AFC Championship game to beat Patrick Mahomes. Brock Purdy, you could argue, got outplayed in the Green Bay game, but he was good enough on the final drive.
Right. That's big, Evan.
In the second half, he was incredible against Detroit. That kind of non-60-minute effort, in my opinion, is not good enough to win it all. So I think there has to be some of that put at Brock Purdy's doorstep as well.
That's phenomenal, and I'll just ask you this, because I think I can remember your answer, but not vividly, because we've been in the offseason. How do you think Brock played in the Super Bowl? And before you answer, Evan, the reason I bring that up is I think it was his best game of the playoffs.
Well,
he didn't shoot you out of that game. And I know, an O-lineman coming unblocked. I'm sorry, I ain't going to be able to get it to Jesus if he's open, but all in all, I looked at Brock like you weren't the reason they lost that game.
No, but he wasn't the reason they won. I mean, he did not do enough to get them to win. That's just how I look at it. And so I think also in regards to transitions, Goo, they are in a position where the 49ers, I think, have chosen Brock to be their guy. I don't think that there's something he's going to do next year. I don't expect him to fall off a cliff, so I think he's going to continue to be their man. I think they're going to pay him. I think the decisions around this offseason are geared towards how we keep Brock and at what number we can keep him for. So they're transitioning into an era of cemented quarterback play.
Oh, my gosh.
And I feel good about it, but it also means that he's got to continue to get better.
And how much is that deal going to come due if he balls out, Evan?
Well,
because you're getting married. They're going to marry him.
I think it was 2 weeks ago, Mike Tannenbaum of ESPN said that he doesn't think he's getting $50 million.
Oh.
Where Jed York says we expect him to reset the quarterback market. I don't know if Brock Purdy's got that in him, but that might be the going rate. It's the same reason why Brandon Ayuk might make close to $30 million per year on the wide receiver market, is because it's the going rate. And that's a lot of money. It's the same thing we're talking about with the NBA. And how much is a player worth? Draymond Green's not worth 25, is he? Klay Thompson might not be worth $25 million. Hate to break it to you, but there's someone in Boston who makes $60 million a year. So Klay Thompson might be half the player that Jaylen Brown is.
Man.
There's a lot of money that is being handed around to these athletes nowadays. And in the Bay Area, it feels like we're trying to search for one that you feel comfortable giving big bucks to, because there's a lot of people that don't even feel comfortable with giving Brock Purdy $45 million. They don't think that he's worth it.
No, and I understand that. That's why I feel like this is the biggest, as crazy as this sounds, 2 years under the helm for Brock, 1.5, when he took over for Jimmy in year one. Evan, this is the biggest and most expensive audition I can believe ever. Man, and I honestly believe had they won this Super Bowl, the blank check would already have been signed. Just think about that. He's won a Super Bowl, whatever number you want, we're going with, young man. Now I wonder if Kyle, and I keep bringing Steiny up because he keeps thinking, Kyle's so finicky, I'm paraphrasing, you never know how he's thinking about said quarterback. So what if we see the Niners go 10-7, Evan, and he looks just normal? That's not $40 million I believe the Niners are going to give him. And, 22 touchdowns to 12 picks. And that's okay for some, but you know what I mean? There's so much at stake. So when you say transition about the Niners, I'm looking at it through a championship prism, but there's also another layer of franchise quarterback at play.
Yeah, but at the same time, in his first 2 seasons, he's been to 2 NFC championship games. He's been to 1 Super Bowl. Not many people can say that throughout their career. Nevertheless, in the first 2 seasons as starter, as a rookie in his second year. So if you're telling me they go 10-7 next year, yeah, we'll probably be disappointed because that means they're losing more games than we think they should. But if they get in the postseason, they win a playoff game, Brock will have won a playoff game in his first 3 years as starter, which is rare. I know that people don't want to hear anything except for, you got to win a Super Bowl.
Well, we did it with Jimmy, his win-loss record. He always had that. And people hated on him so much, they're like, oh, that's different.
I think that's because of how it looked.
All right.
And
we know how it was bumpy.
It was bumpy.
Okay, he had help.
No, the prettiest thing about Jimmy Garoppolo was his face. So, that's really what it comes down to. Brock Purdy is a superior passer. He's a superior quarterback. And he also has the system to help get him to that next level, I think, which is why Brandon Ayuk coming back is the first thing that I thought of this offseason. And the first thing I think that's going to happen, in regards to the Niners, I don't know, making a move. I don't think they're going to trade anybody.
Yeah,
I think they're bringing it back.
No doubt.
They're running it back.
Are you, I don't want to say surprised, but is it curious to you at all, or just par for the course, or just normal, no Ayuk, all quiet on the set with Brandon Ayuk and his contract status?
Well, I would rather have it be all quiet as opposed to him
because he got loud,
making a fuss or stinking it up and going full A.J. Brown. Yeah, I would much rather hear that. And I also think Ayuk is a smart guy. His agent's trying to figure out where he fits because there's a bunch of wide receivers that have gotten paid or will get paid this summer. And he's trying to get his dough. He's trying to get his bread. So
and rightfully so.
He should.
And I just keep going to Michael Silver because we both know he's tapped in. And Evan, during the draft process, Silver's piece had me thinking, good God, one of these guys might get traded. And it didn't happen. And I think the Niners are better for that.
Well, might get traded is different than expected to be traded or asking for a trade or wanting out or making it known that you don't want to be a part of this team, because I think most of these players, regardless of whether they play for the Niners or not, I think most of them do want to win. And then you figure out that you can also get paid and win, and then you want both. I mean, it's the same thing that I think Klay Thompson is kind of going through right now. It's how much can you be paid, but also where are you going to be able to win? Because I think he does want number 5. I think Steph wants number 5. And how is Klay Thompson going to figure out what's best for him?
Wow.
I think the difference is Brandon Ayuk, what's best for Ayuk is also what's best for the 49ers, in my opinion. I think keeping him on the team is what is best for the 49ers.
Totally.
And him getting paid is what's best for him. Klay, there's more of a question of,